we need to have a conversation about responsive desire and what it's doing to your relationship, because I promise it's not a good thing. Not by itself. Responsive desire by itself is actually quite a good way to describe someone who needs to experience some type of connection with someone and let that build into a desire for intimacy. On the other hand, you got someone in a relationship walking around with spontaneous desire who could readily get into the mood just by, the wind blowing in a different direction. But the issue is that we usually see responsive desire used in reference of the opposite of what someone else is, which is spontaneously able to get into the mood. So you've got on the one hand responsive desire, on the other hand you got spontaneous desire. Now what that does is it tells you how you and your partner are different. It tells you how you guys get into the mood and have this desire for intimacy differently. And that is an issue because couples don't need to know how they're different. They don't need to understand how their differences in desire affect their relationship. Because what they really need to be focusing on is how they're the same and how they both get into the mood. See, the idea that I need something like emotional connection to get intimate versus someone who says I need physical intimacy in order to be emotionally connected, which becomes this classic debate, usually along gender lines. Women want to feel emotionally connected. Men want to feel physically connected. Well, what does all that do? All of that does is pit you against your partner. And as a couples therapist and a relationship coach, and I've been doing this for 10 years, I can tell you one thing is that couples, when they are sitting on the opposite side of a fence, rarely resolve the issue at hand. And so this is the issue that I have with responsive desire, is because it becomes this label that gets attached to one person, usually the low libido spouse. And so now you have the high libido spouse who wants to be intimate all the time, spontaneously, and they're saying, I really want to be intimate with you, but you're the low libido spouse, i.e. the person who's got a responsive desire. And so now I just understand that we may not be intimate, or whatever I try to do to get you in the mood isn't working. And now there's this big question mark of what do I need to do to get you in the mood? What can I do in order to have that responsive desire turn on, to flip that switch so that we can be intimate? Well, all of those are really good questions. To be honest, I want to ask my wife on a general level, what do I need to do? How do I need to show up in our relationship in order for you to want to desire me? Of course, we all want to know that. Otherwise, you would just be a complete jerk, thoughtless, lazy, insensitive, and you really wouldn't care what your lived reality of your spouse was and still expect them to want to be intimate with you. Well, I'm keenly aware that people need emotional connection in order to be intimate. But the issue with responsive desire is that people tend to hide behind it. They hide behind it not intentionally, but unintentionally. And this is where I want to go with this video today, because it's really important for you to understand the dangers of attaching these labels to either of you. See, someone who spontaneously expresses desire could have their own issues in the sense that they want to be intimate with many people. They can't control their intimacy, or it's raging and it's always there and it's the only thing they can think of. So they feel like they can't turn it down. Well, that doesn't feel good to make someone think that they're addicted to sex. That wouldn't feel good at all. And I've been accused of that, actually. I wrote a post on Instagram talking about the intimacy that I have with my wife. And someone said to me, you sound like a sex addict. I'm like, you know what? I only want to be intimate with my wife. I don't want to be intimate with anyone else. And I actually only need to be intimate with her a couple times a week, 2-3 times. 4 would be crazy. So I don't want the label of being spontaneous in my desire. And I don't think anyone should really want the label of responsive desire, because it separates me from my wife and it'll separate you from your spouse. See, the better conversation is, when do we both have desire for one another to be intimate? What are the precursors to that? What is happening in our morning, in our afternoon? What would happen throughout the day that would lead us both to want to feel desire? So we don't need to qualify desire by giving it a label of responsive or spontaneous. We can just keep it in this natural, unified term that describes both of us. And this is why people appreciate the work I do, because I want to bring you guys together and I don't want to divide you. And so I 100% know that if I were to give one of you a label of having responsive desire, the other a label of having spontaneous desire, I've already separated you. I've already explained how you guys are different. That doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is I've worked with so many couples now where have gone to a family event, and maybe it was the wife or maybe it was the husband who was mistreated by another family member of their spouse. But their spouse, in order to keep the peace, doesn't feel like they want to confront their family member for treating their spouse poorly. And this is why it's a big issue, is because someone won't feel like they have their back. Someone will walk around thinking, my partner doesn't have my back. They don't have my back. They don't come to my defense. They don't have my best interests at heart. We must not be the same. We must not be unified and going through this life together. That is what differences do. See, people want to know how they are exactly the same as their spouse. They want to know they're on the same page, rowing in the same direction, speak the same language, have the same values, politics, morals, all of it. And what do you think about desire? Why would desire be any different? So the better question is not what type of desire do you have versus what type of desire I have. The best question to ask is, when do we have a desire to be intimate with one another? What happens in that particular day, in that moment, in that evening where you felt that you had desire for me and I felt I had desire for you? Whether that was responsive, whether that was spontaneous, none of that matters. That's just simply qualifying desire. The underlying unifying feeling that you guys should share for one another is just simply desire. So don't listen to all the gurus out there, all the relationship experts that want to tell you that your wife or your husband has responsive desire, you have spontaneous desire. This is a problem. This is what you need to work on. This is why you guys are different. This is not what you want to hear. You want to hear how you're the same. So stop qualifying what type of desire you have and just simply ask, what gets us in the mood together? What makes us want to be intimate? The biggest problem is that typically the person who's got responsive desire is going to come back and say, I can only be intimate when I feel emotionally connected to you. And the biggest issue with that statement is that you will never know what emotional connection looks like because it is way too vague. It is such a vague goal that you will never achieve it, because it's always going to be shifting and changing and growing. The goal gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which it becomes more and more unattainable. You need concrete details as to what gets you in the mood. You need concrete details as to when you guys share the same desire. So responsive desire, spontaneous desire, you don't need to qualify it. And we don't need to focus on emotional connection to be intimate. We need to be asking, when do we both have desire for one another? What do we do well to get us in that frame of mind, in that mood, so that we can be intimate together? This is what I want to teach you guys. Reject the qualifying language of responsive and spontaneous and just focus on togetherness, sameness, how you guys row in the same direction. That is the only thing that matters to couples, and definitely the healthy ones. I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, comments, drop it in the comment section below. Come on over to Instagram. Come and join me there. If you have a DM that you want to send me with a question because you need some help, I answer every single one of my DMs, so you can always come and find me over there. It's Jonathan Van Vegan. Really simple. Thank you guys so much. I look forward to the next video. Bye now.